Okay, what's up, beautiful people of the world? Hope everybody's doing great. It's great to have you here. It's great to see you, hear you, comments, all that good stuff. I had a subscriber reach out to me. Garage Doors Unlimited, good dude, over in Wisconsin. So basically, same kind of weather conditions, crummy. Not like my boy Jason. Not like my boy Jason down there right now. I think Jason down in Texas. Yeah, yeah, enjoying that nice warm weather. He sent me some pictures today through Messenger, and he had to show me a door he was installing, and I said, "Look," I said, "no snow." I'm jealous. What can I say? So, anyways, kind of a briefing on here. Uh, Garage Door Unlimited here. He was asking, how do we take care of the office part, and how much do it? Do you have someone else do it? Like job bidding, phone calls, writing work orders, scheduling orders, and so forth. He said he started out in 2014, grew steadily from just himself there, one part timer, to five of us full time, and three service trucks. That's awesome. That's awesome. I can tell you what, that's a lot of headache. I remember I had roughly, I think, about seven guys at one time underneath me, and that was a lot of work. That was a ton of work. Not saying it can't be done, but you have to have the biggest thing is you have to have good people. That's the biggest thing. If you get what I call a rat, they will infiltrate you, and I've had a few. One of my last guys that left, he was he was pilfering, and he wasn't being honest. So they can infiltrate you really fast, and you got to get rid of those as quick as you can. So, anywho, on the job bidding, it's kind of a we kind of all do it together. I would say. I even get the wife involved on some of the stuff. It's just easier for me to try to talk to her to make sure I'm not overlooking anything. And normally I get numbers. I kind of work with her. I kind of always I got it's almost like I got two wives. So I talk to the secretary, and she'll get stuff done for me, and I'll deal with my wife, and we'll meet in the middle to make something happen. And you know how it is. Every job, you have to look at the distance, you have to look at the conditions, you have to look at just so many variables. But I want to tell you, in a nutshell, just in a nutshell, normally you take whatever the material is and just double it. Somebody told me this years ago that was at a lumber yard, and no matter how I figure it, typically it comes pretty close. Not always. I mean, sometimes your numbers can be high, and you gotta step back a little bit, and sometimes you actually got to go a little higher just because you know the conditions. But just generally, if you have to throw quick numbers out, or you're wondering about what you're doing, if you're in the ballpark, just take whatever the material is and just double it, and that's probably where you're going to be. Right now you look at it, the way I look at it is we got materials going up again, labor is going to go up basically because your workers are going to want to get paid more. Inflation's going up, the food and everything that they're buying is going up. So you got to keep, and it's just easier to let the vendors and all that do the work versus you trying to do all the operations and constantly plugging in the numbers into, if you're using like a software, QuickBooks or something. So, and then on the job bidding, if you're not using like I think it's a CRM, customer relations market, I don't know what it is, it's something like that. But we use Jobber. You can Google it, and that is a life scent. Let me show you. Let me grab this real quick. Should have grabbed this beforehand. These are our old. These are our old work orders that we used to fill out by hand. And I remember when I first did this, it was kind of one of those things that it was I couldn't decide on just pulling the trigger and finally doing it, but it was one of those things that it was like I wanted this, I wanted this, and we used to keep all the track of our time down here, and we built off this. We started it, and then we added things, and then unfortunately, the guy that built them for me, he passed away. So we no longer really deal with those anymore, and it wasn't because of him. It was just because it wasn't keeping up. Um, the biggest thing I can tell you that's helped me out a lot, and I think everybody else, is have something that's in a neutral spot, which I mean like a cloud of some sort that you can access. So if you go on vacation and you still want to work on something or see something, or your secretary and maybe she's in a different locations. Another thing too is maybe check out I heard about this. It's called Jill's Office. They might be a help for answering the phone. I don't think they're going to be as detailed about stuff, but they can kind of get the job done, and they'll just charge you per phone call. And it really doesn't sound like that bad a deal. I've been interested to try it out just to explore it a little bit. But as another side note, what you don't want to use is we had this one software. It was a smart service. They get you into a contract. It's a lot of money. I don't recommend them. That was a bad. It just seemed like Microsoft compared to Google. Like it was just real blotchy. It seemed like nobody wanted to really interact with it. I mean, a lot of the guys dove into it and they understood it and got into it, but I need something that if I bring in somebody part time or a helper, or you know how it is, you're going to get somebody that might not stick around. They can understand it right away. And it's like, here, push the start button when you start the job so we know how to bill it. I like very simple. The simpler, the better. And I'm still horrible about filling out all the stuff um, because I'm just always somewhere else. And it's not an excuse. It is my fault, and I'm trying to do better on it. Um, so, service trigger. Yep. We are looking into another service, but I don't want to talk about that because I haven't done it yet and I have no experience. But we are looking at another software that the reason we're going to incorporate it possibly is to do more with. I'd like to get something that incentivizes the workers to follow up with customers and that they can get rewarded. That's the biggest challenge too, is not having something to make their mind understand that there's incentive for them to do it. When you're an owner or you're you know a business partner in something, it's easy for you guys to understand that you have to go out and drum up work. You have to check on jobs. You have to have great customer service, right? But it's hard for employees to have that mindset of they just look at it like I go to a job and maybe I can't get through something. I have a failure point or whatever. And they just kind of shrug their shoulders and they move on to the next because that's where you're directing them. You always got to remember it's a ship. That's the best way I can describe it. You're the captain of the ship. You're seeing the waves coming. Sometimes you got to veer into them. Sometimes you got to veer away from them. But you're the director in it, and you got to make those calls, and it's very challenging. It really is. So, anyways, let's move on to something else here. What else do we got? We got writing the work orders. Writing the work orders also goes into the jobber. Basically, all the employees, secretary, wife, myself, we all can we can jump into Jobber and write up our own. And the beautiful part is then everybody can see it. Everybody can access it. So if you're still dealing with written stuff, oh man, you got to get that just gets to be crazy with all the paperwork. I mean, we had these and these ones were all carbon. They had the old carbon copies. And I still got them in the shop. If you ever guys watch the videos, I still got all the clipboards in the back. That's how we organized Monday through Friday on work orders and stuff like that. And we put them in the slots and then we have their names. It just got to be, you're spending so much money on paper, time, people losing the paper. It gets to be ridiculous. So writing the work orders, deal with Jobber on it if you can. Job scheduling, it might be a little different for you because we don't deal with a lot. We try to stay out of the residential so much. We have nothing against the residential. It's just that commercial, it just pays a lot better. And it's, I don't want to go too deep into that, but the residential can be just so nitpicky and, it can just be a long rabbit hole, but you got to do it. You got to do it. I mean, like I said, we're looking to open it back up, but we're trying to be really smart about it. Like I said, that phone is everything. That's a portal, and you got to understand. I would rather tell the customer over the phone right from the get go, say yay or nay. We had an incident this Friday. Somehow, I don't know the whole details. The phone just didn't get answered. It went to voicemail, and the customer got reached back, I think, by the secretary, and it was determined that we could possibly take care of it. So my technician comes and he says, "Well, I'm kind of waiting." Well, to me that's silly. Why are we waiting? You know what I mean? So we've called and now they don't call back. So now it's just a ticking time bomb. It's a Friday. We already had a long week. We had horrible weather Friday. The technician, he would like to go home, and I don't blame him, and he deserves it. And it turned into they never called back. But why do we have this window of, it should have been, when you talk to a customer right from the get-go, you are stopping them. You are stopping them in their tracks. You really are. You're making communication. You're creating a bond that, oh, you want my service? Yes, I would like for you to come out. Let me check and call you back. But when we deal with this automated stuff, it's so cold. There's no heart behind it. You're going to call the next person. Like I said, I always try to describe it as like a tow vehicle, right? Uh, if you're on the side of the road and you call a place and they don't answer, you want service, right? Because it's people's minds work like, I need to get this off my plate and onto somebody else, so I want service. And they'll just keep calling until they get resolved, or they'll wait if somebody does say, hey, I'll call you back in a few minutes and we'll see what we can do. Anyways, so job scheduling, jobber, you know, ordering, it's kind of a mix. I typically, excuse me, I do quite a bit of the ordering. Now I'm going to take the blame for this. This is something that I still struggle with, but we're trying to build up a lot more inventory. The reason being is, with all this stuff going on, it's insane. I think I finally, after 2 weeks, just got the springs in. The second, it was supposed to be a pair of springs. We only got one for the road commission. And I'm seriously thinking about carrying some springs, because this stuff is just getting ridiculous. It's getting insane. I just had this morning, I was just bidding a job for a opener up in Manistee. And I told the guy, I said, you could be looking at, I mean, this is a commercial opener, but I said, you could be looking at $3,000. That's a lot of money. And he's like, I don't care. He says, the guy that was supposed to do it says he can't do it. He can't get parts or whatever to March or something. And I said, well, you got Uncle D here, and Uncle D has resources. So I can pull some strings and make some stuff happen. So the ordering, one thing too, I've been thinking about, just so you know, I literally been thinking about, ordering sucks, just flat out sucks. I've been thinking about, I'm going to build a wall in our shop, and I'm going to put a camera, and everybody has access to that camera, and they can look from the camera to see what's on that wall. Sounds really silly, doesn't it? But you know what? If you got a better idea, I would love to hear it, because I can't remember what it's called. It starts with an S or something, but I've tried other inventory. The problem with inventory is, when it comes in, you got to document it. You got to put it in the system. It's very time consuming. And the biggest thing is like, at my shop, I'm not there all the time. So people will just open up boxes, and it's like, I'm looking like, I got some plugs in the other day for the gate operator I was working on. And I'm looking, there's 4 in there. And I'm thinking, I swore I ordered 5. That's what I'm thinking. And I'm concerned. So luckily the paperwork was still in there. I looked, and it was only 4 that was ordered. And I thought, oh, okay, that's fine. So anyways, what else do we got here? Business, scheduling, ordering, and so forth. Employees. Yeah, no kidding. Employees. Wow. That can be a lot of fun. Take care of the office part. Let's see here else. Jobs, bidding, phone calls. So the phone calls. Let's jump onto the phone calls. The phone calls, I try to stay out of the phone as much as possible. I sometimes can have too much of a heart for the phone calls. I can get suckered into going. I shouldn't even. I really don't do that as much as I used to. So, the secretary does that. If you get a good secretary, she can help you out a lot. But the phone calls, the thing is, the phone calls really should be answered. That's the biggest thing. Now, regardless, that's a portal. That's you've done so much work behind the scenes to make that phone ring, and the advertising and the handshakes and the customers' relations, that phone is so important. And like I said, even if it turns into, so like what we do, but this might help you out. I would say, like we use Ring Central. Ring Central, it costs a little bit of money. I don't think it's ridiculous, but you have some initial investment. You have to buy the phones. And they're a little bit challenging. The thing is that they record the conversations, which is great. Everybody, unless they don't have access, can access the phone conversations, which I absolutely love because it's like they can listen to the whole conversation. But on the cell phones ends of it, they don't work the best. So typically for our commercial, I always make sure they have direct with myself or with the installers or employees. Um, and I let them, whoever's got good relationships with them, I let them deal with those guys. And because it just works better, because commercial is such a different animal. Commercial people do not want to screw around, which I love. They do not want to sit there and tell you about Fluffy on the phone and all that. They just want to get to the point. Like I had a broken spring out at the road commission today. The guy calls. He says, "Hey, it's me. Blah blah blah." He says it's door 12, and he just think of what I'm providing to him with that. I don't have to. I know the whole building inside and out, so he doesn't have to deal with much. He just calls. He makes that service call, and we're on our way. And I'm sure he loves it just as much as I love it. And if we're there for 2 hours, we bill for 2 hours. We're there for 6 hours, we bill for 6 hours. It's a great relationship. Um, so I kind of hope that can help fill in. Like I said, the biggest things that if you can get Jobber, that's a big help. I think QuickBooks offers some stuff, but we're kind of going back to QuickBooks a little bit. We've changed a few things, but QuickBooks is still just not as bubbly as all I can think of as Jobber. Jobber just seems like the Google. It just makes things that you want to click and you feel like you're doing something, and it just gives you that kind of that beat of yay, I'm getting stuff done, and they kind of sync, which is kind of the goofy part, but they do work. Actually, the secretary, wife, and my employees are smarter at it than I am. I am basically a technician, which is, I'm not gonna lie, it's a lot of times how I kind of like it. I like to do the more technical jobs. I've done this for so many years. When you go to residential, it's like, I got this. It's just really super easy for me. I like a challenge. So what else we got here? Phone calls, like I said, secretary, job bidding, writing work orders, job scheduling. We talked about the ordering and so forth. But that's cool, man. Started in 2014 and grew steadily. That's awesome. Good for you. Good for you. I hope it goes good. Just remember, some of the things I didn't know about is, like, I think this year we probably made roughly, I don't know, like $100,000 less in sales, but yet we probably profited about maybe, I want to say like 20 or 30,000 more. So you you really got to make sure you're being smart, and I cannot stress being close to the shop or close to home, whatever it is, how important that is. We have the weather that just changed on us here, and it's we're in the single digits right now, and the roads are junk. They're like two tracks because the ice can't get melted on them. They're scraping them, but man, they're just, the truck's doing the, and that's hard on them. It's hard on them. And we have a job that's about an hour away from here, and that wasn't going to happen today. Roads are too bad, slippery. Um, but yet, my technician told me, he goes, "I got one right down the road that we just acquired, a new customer." And I was doing this. I was doing like, yay, that's awesome. Because I know the value in that. See, when somebody gets far away from the shop, if somebody breaks down, or if somebody gets that's more time on the road. More time on the road is more time for accidents, more time for texting, more times for a drink spilling in the lap, more times for somebody cutting you off, running an intersection. That's a lot of liability. And I would hope that nobody out in this industry would ever get hurt. I don't want nobody to get hurt or injured, including myself or my workers. And that's the stuff you have to take in consideration. That's really, really very important. So, anyways, I think I'm going to leave it at that. Mr. Garage Door Man, if you have any more questions, please feel free to reach out. I love answering these questions. I'm sure I didn't. I'm sure there's more I could have touched on a little bit more, but this is kind of my overall of some knowledge. If hopefully this is helpful, and I wish you good luck, man. And like I said, keep those technicians, keep them with full bellies. You know what I mean? Try to keep pumping the money for them. And remember, if you can get over to something a little bit better that can give them incentive, I don't really have the answer for that, not yet. I am looking into a software that could record some of that a little bit, because it can get very messy, let's just say. So we do profit sharing, which seems to work out because then it covers everything, which is a little bit nicer. It covers the nuts and bolts, the gas, letting trucks run, maybe being a little more efficient. But I always ask out of all my employees or staff or anything is just that we want to do a great job. We want to be honest. We want to be loyal. We want to be, um, you know, we just want to be good people, good Christian people, good people of faith, good people of taking care of each other. And we don't want to be the trunk slammers. We don't want to take shortcuts. That's the biggest thing. You take shortcuts, I guarantee you it will cost you in the end. You will lose work if you're not honest. You will lose relationships. It's just not good. It's not good at all. So, anyways, hope you guys are doing good. Hope you guys enjoy. Take care. We'll see you on the next one and go get them.